Hello and welcome once more to another Parry's Pickups, episode 97. I can't believe it either. And we've got four more games to discuss on this latest episode. So we've got the game somewhere. They're here today. Yeah. Sometimes sometimes they're there, sometimes they're here. Who knows? Well, take it out of the case so you can see it. This is a Game Gear game. I've covered quite a few Game Gear games recently because I recently got myself a working Game Gear. So this is called Halley Wars or Halley Wars. I'd call it Halley Wars as that is how it is spelt, but Halley sounds better, like Halley's Comet, because that's got a sort of relevance to this game. So it's a top-down shooter, a classic genre of video game. This one's a little bit different than most. If you let enemies past you, or if you let comets pass you, the Halley's Comet reference, then they will impact on, I assume it's Earth, the planet you're protecting. And you get a little percentage in the bottom of the screen. If that percentage reaches 100, it's game over, because the Earth is then destroyed by all the falling debris from the... Very good! Don't you think? That's a great little concept for a game there. So, first time playing this I found it a little difficult until I realised how important it is to have a good weapon loadout in this game. Try and max out those weapons as fast as you can. If you're on a single laser, then it's going to be very difficult to shoot down the comets, especially. They come in very fast. If you haven't got like a spread shot, then you're unlikely to hit them. So really try and upgrade your ship as fast as you can. That happens in the usual manner. You can destroy asteroids or ships and they leave behind upgrades. Go and get them as soon as you can. The speed up ones will really help because the ship as standard is very slow. So you'll really need those extra power-ups to be able to get anywhere in this game. But once you do that, you make that your goal and you go for it, then this is really fun and quite challenging. I made it past the first level on my quick playthrough of it the other day, defeating the boss. And this was after a few attempts, you know, of getting more of the hang of the game and realising the importance of the power-ups. So it plays really well. It's a relatively simple game, but that's really what you want, I think, on a handheld console. But it has that, you know, originality about it in its concept. So I'd recommend Halley Wars for the Game Gear. Very inexpensive game. Cost me I think £5 again. I'm going with my my goal of not spending more than £5 on a Game Gear game. It's served me well so far. And it's the same with this next game we're going to talk about, which is another good game for the Game Gear, and that game is called Devilish. Wonderful cover. What could this be? If you were to perhaps look at this cover, what could you guess this game is about? You probably wouldn't think it is a sort of like breakout type game. You got a paddle, you got a ball, you've got to break through the blocks, but the screen scrolls upwards and you sort of travel through a level sort of in the same way as a top-down shooter. And like Breakout, you sort of bounce the ball against the paddle and try and destroy the blocks as you progress. And all the imagery in the game is a bit monstrous, a bit fantasy, and some demons and some monsters. And yeah, I like the aesthetic of it. Music's pretty good as well. Title screen is a lot more jazzy than this cover is. It's actually got a really cool logo, but it was maybe a little bit more too colourful to match with the sort of sinister imagery on the cart. It's sort of like if you saw this Game Boy cartridge, you might think it's a bit, you know, a bit occult, a bit dangerous. You know, it's got that imagery on the front of it, but the game isn't really quite like that. So you're pushing the ball through the level, and I say push because that seems to be the best strategy for me. Rather than let it wait for it to bounce off the paddle, try and push the ball through the level as much as you can, and you can actually move the paddle up the screen to do that, rather than the paddle sitting at the bottom like most of these sort of games. You can also change the paddle round. You always have like two or three paddles at one time. You can set up in sort of a formation where you get one at the top and two at the bottom, or you've got two which create sort of like a little corner that you can use. It should be more apparent in the footage. I like to stick with the one with the 3 paddles, as it gives you the most sort of coverage. If you miss on the first, then you've got those 2 behind it to back it up. So you can change your strategy like that. You're under a time limit, so that is why I stress you must sort of push through the level as fast as you can. You can't really wait for the ball to come back and forth between say the paddle and the obstacles. So yeah, nice graphics, nice music, good original fun concept. A little bit frustrating having the time limit there, does create some extra stress, but extra difficulty as well. But yeah, just remember you've got to really push through those levels. It's a good fun game. It's perfect for a handheld console. There's even a version of this available on the Nintendo DS, which I also have, which is worth playing. You can get it on the Mega Drive as well. I don't think there was actually a PAL Mega Drive release, but there is a Genesis release, so that's the US Mega Drive equivalent. Okay, the next 2 games are Kinect games, and if you watch a lot of these Paris pickups, you'll know I've been getting a few Kinect games recently. Again, they're cheap. I love cheap games. And the first of these 2 cheap Kinect games is Fable The Journey, which I bought online, $3.99, sealed, brand new. The only thing different about this is it's a Nordic copy, so that just means that descriptions are in Danish and Swedish, Norwegian, so, and Finnish, I think. So yeah, it's a good game. Now, I've seen online a few people's opinions of this game, and some of them are rather negative. I think some Fable fans took offence that they were moving the series in this direction rather than doing Fable 4. Well, I see it's very much of a spin-off. It uses the Fable name, yes, and that's fine. You know, this is a game developed by Lionhead Studios within the Fable universe, and you do travel through familiar Fable locations. But it's a Kinect game, so how are you going to make a Fable Kinect game is the question, and I think they landed on a great idea, which was this journey concept. So first of all, and really the only bit I've experienced so far, I know there's a few things you can do with using magic spells later on, when you move your hands to cast spells, but at the beginning you stroke a horse with a brush. Ooh, you're on your way to a destination, travelling in a chariot type, what do you call it? Horse and carriage. So after you brush your horse, which is a very brief section, just sort of introduce you to the Kinect controls, you sit down and you give him the reins, and you crack them. You make this motion to get going. You can do that again to speed up. It's really quite intuitive, and the best thing about it is you can sit down while playing it. Wow, more Kinect games should allow for that. And then you do this motion to push in either direction and steer. You pull your arms all the way up to stop, and pull your arms forward to slow down. And slowing down you need to do for when you go across rocky areas, because otherwise the horse will get damaged if he moves too fast over a rocky area. Later on it introduces gems, where different colour gems. If you just go at a normal pace, slightly fast, then you can pick up the blue gems. Now if you speed through that to the next speed by cracking the whips once more, the reins should I say, then you'll be able to pick up the red gems. And what these do is they're sort of like experience points. I can see in the top left hand corner of the screen a meter building up, so I'm assuming that you sort of level up the horse and your abilities as you go. But yeah, something happens on your journey and there's a big storm and you get separated from the rest of your convoy, and that's where you then look at your map and you can see the world of Albion, which Fable fans will be familiar with, and you've got to travel through a forest. That's the second section. So all I've played really at the minute is the introduction piece of the game, the prologue so to speak, but it was enough to really get the hang of these horse and carriage controls with the reins, and it's really easy to pick up, very satisfying, and great that you can sit down. What I love about Kinect is it gives you totally new experiences you haven't really had anywhere else. Not having a controller in your hands is a big thing when playing a video game and unique to the Kinect. I think the Kinect doesn't get as much credit as it deserves because this was a great invention, creates some great gaming experiences, and these games are some of the most affordable games you'll find. My Kinect camera only cost me £15 second hand. The games are costing under a fiver. As I said, just £4 for this game, brand new. If you're interested in video games and the idea of motion control, then the Kinect, you've really got to check it out if you haven't already. I think a lot of people maybe didn't like the idea of Kinect, didn't necessarily play the games, which is a bit of a shame, really, because there's quite a lot of interesting titles available for it. The next one is also another interesting title. This one's called Rise of Nightmares. You may have seen it around languishing on shelves somewhere thinking, how good can a Kinect survival horror type game be? And you know, you'll be right to say that to yourself. It's an on the rails type game. It's published by Sega. Now, I haven't actually gone the extra mile and sort of research exactly who developed this game. There's no other game names on the package, so I assume it's also developed by Sega in-house. Certainly the game's visuals look like that. They look a bit House of the Dead-esque, which I didn't realise until I investigated this game a little bit further. This was recommended by Blast Processor Mike. So I'm pretty sure it's in-house developed Sega game. It's an on-the-rails walking experience type thing. Now that's a terrible description of the game, but to give you a little idea of how things start out, you're in sort of you're in a room, you're trapped. What can you do? You can interact with objects. You can see a symbol where you can reach out and hold your hand in that position to interact with it. In a moment, quite quickly on, you are introduced to how you move in the game. This is quite a hard game to explain, so bear with me here. So if you push your foot forward, you'll move forward. You need to hold your foot there, so you step forward. Apparently the further you step forward, the faster you'll move. So you just have to step one foot forward and you'll start moving. Now, if that sounds awkward to you, it is slightly. You can hold your hand up in the corner of the screen to activate auto move feature. But that, you know, you lose some control then, and when you're introduced to the enemies, which appear quite early on in the game, you might want to be in a sort of manual control so you're able to stop and attack them. Also, you look round from left to right using your shoulders. So you make this motion to sort of turn. You can hold like that to turn around. Yeah, it's awkward, but maybe you get used to it, I don't know. And early on you pick up a pipe, I think, and you use that as a weapon, so you do this. You hold both your arms up, sort of get into sort of a fighting mode. You don't have to do that, but it sort of helps to focus on the enemy. And then you make this movement to hit the enemy. So you kind of feel a bit weird doing this, and it just feels awkward and a little bit unnatural. Visuals are nice, atmosphere's good. Not particularly scary, I wouldn't say, because everything just seems very cumbersome and silly when you're doing this. It's, yeah, so far at least. And again, with this game, I've only really played the prologue to it, but that's just enough to get just the controls. You play a character who, spoilers, at the end of the prologue is killed, and then the game starts to reel and you're inside a train carriage with a woman who's having a bit of a go at you. And then you're given the controls again so you can walk around the train carriage. So yeah, the story will develop from that point on, I'm sure. It looks incredibly violent from the trailer, and yeah, I'm very curious about where this game's going to go, but I'm a little bit put off by the cumbersome nature of the controls. It's very ambitious in what it tries to do, whereas maybe if it had been a little bit more straightforward, like Fable The Journey, it may be more successful. But we'll wait and see on that. Again, it was, you know, next to nothing, cost about £3.50 or something like that. So, yeah, and that's everything we've got for this episode of Parry's Pickups. Thanks very much for taking time to watch the episode. There's not many Parry's Pickups left now because, as I mentioned in, I think, in episode 95, after episode 100, we're going to try another sort of feature here on Blast Process, and we're going to maybe retire Parry's Pickups. Maybe not forever, we'll see how that goes, but we're just going to try something a little bit different. So while you're here, please do like the video if you liked it indeed, and dislike it if you didn't, you know, whatever you feel like. And yeah, if you like the content we create on Blast Process, then if you press subscribe, then you'll get all those notifications, as long as you ring the bell as well, which is somewhere, you know, apparently, you know, I've heard people say that, so... So yeah, until we see each other again for another Parry's Pickups, thanks very much for watching, and game on!